Okay, so here's our first example. As you can see, we have a very, very long polynomial. This polynomial does have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, and we're also given a factor. So we already know part of our answer. Here's our polynomial, and here is the factor that they gave us. So this is our poly, and this is a factor. So right now, we already know one of our factors. And you can see our polynomial has 4 terms, but if you were to try and factor by grouping, you make your first 2 groups, your second 2 groups. If you try to take a GCF, it can't be done. Can't be done. So, we can't factor by grouping, because this 4-term polynomial can't be factored by grouping. We can't use the x method, so there's only one thing to do. We know that 5x plus 1 is a factor, which means it'll divide out of the polynomial evenly and will have no remainder. So the first thing we need to do is factor out 5x plus 1 using long division. Okay, so blast of the past. 5x plus 1, our factor goes out front. Again, a factor means it goes into it perfectly, right? Just like 5 is a factor of 10, because can you divide 10 by 5? Yes, it's 2. This polynomial can be divided by 5x plus 1. The problem tells us that, which means we need to long divide it out. Okay, long division set up. Remember, your factor goes out front. That's what we're dividing by. And the polynomial goes on the inside. That's what we're dividing up. Remember, the f of x is just telling us this is a function. We don't need to put it inside. Okay, so from here, we put our blob over the first term. And now we go. Think very carefully. We will do long division together twice today. We are trying to make sure our front term always goes bye-bye. We want it to disappear. I need to turn this 5 into a 10. What do you multiply 5 by to make it a 10? 2. So that is what goes on top. That is the first thing we need to find out, is what goes on the top. So there's my 2 on the top. And if you're like, oh, Mr. Pelkar, I don't know what variable it should have, all you do is look right under it. Whatever variable the term under it has, the top should have also. That means this 2 should have an x squared. Okay, so that is our first step. We find that top term, and now we use the distributive property to multiply both parts of the factor. We need to multiply 5x and 1 by 2x squared. So we shall begin. 2 times 5 is 10. Yay! They match. And then put down your variable. Remember, everything in the first column should have x to the thirds. Everything in the second column should have x to the second. So on and so forth. Now I need to also multiply 2 by the 1. I have to multiply by both. Don't drop things. I will find you and you'll be banned from this classroom. 2 times 1 is 2. So positive 2 plus 2 match your variable, x squared. So that is the distributive property. We found the top, we multiplied by both terms in front, so 2 times, and now we subtract. And here's where the most mistakes happen, is subtracting. Silly gooses. 10 minus 10 is 0, so we cross it out. 37 minus 2 is 35. And this should have an x squared, match your variables. And then we drop it low. Drop 37x. And now we rinse and repeat. Okay, so now we need to make 5 turn into a
7x.
35. So the way to do that is multiply by 7. Positive 7. Look below it. This 7 should have an x. It should match everything below it. And everything below it has an x, so that 7 needs an x. And then we take that 7 and we do what? Multiply, distribute. 7 times 5, 35, match the variable. 7 times 1 is 7, match the variable. And then we subtract. What happens to 35 minus 35? Zilch, nothing, 0, gone. Bye-bye. 37 minus 7 is 30. X. One more term to go, drop it low, plus 6. And we repeat one final time, and we are ready to move on. What do I do to this 5 to turn it into a 30? You would multiply by 6. So put your plus 6, because it's a positive 6 we need. And distribute it one last time. 6 times 5 is 6 times 1 is subtract, and we get 0. Which, should I always get a 0 here? Yes, because the problem gave us a factor. It's not going to give you a factor. Well, it's not a factor. If it doesn't go in evenly, it's not a factor. A problem will not result in a remainder because then you can't do it. What it gives you has to be a factor. It has to have a remainder of 0. So one of two things happens if you get a remainder. Either you made a mistake or I made a mistake making the problem. One of those two. I don't think it's a 50-50, but we're going to say a 50-50. So, what we have now is we have begun to factor. Right now, our current answer is 5x plus 1. That was our first factor. And what was left over? We're on top. So we have taken our polynomial and we have split it into 5x plus 1 times 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. So we took that polynomial and we ripped out its factor. This is what's left. And when I divide two things, whatever's left, if you multiply these together, we should go back to the original. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we're not done yet because we still have to check something. So 5x plus 1 is called a binomial. It only has 2 terms, so it's already a factor. But how many terms does this have? 3 terms. And what can we do with a 3-term polynomial? What type of factoring?
X.
The X method. So we broke it up using long division, and now we're going to break it up even more using the X method. I know. So what is my A value? What is my B value? What is my C value? So we are working on taking 2x squared plus 7x plus 6 and factoring it. Splitting her up. Okay, so I'm going to draw my x. A times C is right on top. So 8 times C on top is 12. B on the bottom. 7. What will we divide both sides by?
4 and 3.
I agree with, but what will we divide both sides by?
2.
2. And yes, what multiplies to 12 and adds up to 7? 4 and 3. 4 times 3 is 12, and what's 4 plus 3? the amount in your Cash App. Perfect. What is 4 divided by 2? 2, yes. Circle. 3/2, can it be simplified? It cannot. 3/2 is a simplified fraction. So those will make up our 2 final factors. How do I write 2 as a factor? X plus 2. How do I write 3/2 as a factor?
X plus 3. X plus 3.
2x plus 3. Remember the denominator swoops. Remember swoop? Remember the good old swoop days? The 2 swoops to the front, the 3 stays at the end. And what was our one other factor that we had at the beginning? 5x plus 1. And guess what? You have done it. You have factored a fatty polynomial using long division and the x method. Congratulations. Did we technically do anything new? No, we just did a lot of old stuff all in one problem. Are you proud of the work you've done? You should be. Look at it. You did that. Next. Just when you thought that was a big one, look at the next one. Woo! 5-term polynomial. Nice. Look how small I had to make the font to make sure I could fit all my words. See that big blank on the side? You're going to be using all that. Does it scare you? Oh, sorry, we're in the Christmas season. This is going to be a jolly old time. Okay. Again, this is our polynomial. It has many terms. This is our given factor. It gave us part. Now, a 5-term, we definitely can't use the x method, and we definitely can't do grouping. It has 5 terms. Grouping works for 4 terms sometimes, and the x method works for 3 terms sometimes. This has 5 terms. There is no method for 5 terms, so we have to use long division. It gave us a good old little poly, not Polly Pocket, polynomial, and we're given a factor again. So let us begin quite a lengthy long division. Factor out front, 2x plus 1. Big boy on the inside. Right neat. Running. That's what I feel like when I'm doing long division. Alright, set her up. We are going to have to rinse and repeat the same 3 steps like 4 times till we get to the end. What should our remainder be? If it's not 0, either you made a mistake or I made a mistake. So, here we go. What do I do to the 2 to turn it into a 24?
12.
Multiply it by 12. 12 times 2 is in fact 24. What variable should the 12 have?
3.
X to the 3rd. We match, right? When you put on socks in the morning, what do you make sure? Oh, yeah, or you're just a weirdo that doesn't match the socks. 12 times 2 is 24. Match your variable. And 12 times 1 is 12. Match your variable. And what am I going to do? Subtract these bad boys. First term goes bye-bye. Wave goodbye. And 16 minus 12 is... Drop your next term. Okay, repeat. It's like we put our song with that little circle with the 1. Is that what it is? A little symbol for a song that just keep repeating. You know what I'm talking about? No. I know you guys listen to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? The little button you put on your phone to make the sound like keep repeating. Doesn't it look like that or something? Is it not that?
That's the power. That's the power button.
You guys suck at technology.
Is that Lisa?
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't.
You just drew a power button.
I know what a power button is. I kid you not, that is what it looks like. On Friday, I'm putting Rebecca Black on repeat the entire day, and I'm going to have that symbol in large on the screen.
Who plays Rebecca Black?
That's the point. Okay, how do I turn a 2 into a 4? How do I turn a 2 into 4? 2, yeah, so put your positive 2 up front, and what x should this have? An x squared. It should match, like your socks. And now multiply. 2 times 2 is? 4. 2 times 1 is? 2. And then we're going to do what? Ladies and gentlemen? What happens to the front terms? They always die. Now be extra, super, extremely, ultra, omega careful, okay? What is this number right there?
Negative 58.
And what are we subtracting?
2.
So negative 58 minus 2 is? Negative 60 x squared. Now drop the next term. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, we're not. When in doubt, if you feel the need to ask, is that it? It's probably not. Okay, what, here's a tricky one, what do I do to a 2 to make it a negative 60?
Negative 30.
Negative 30. Match your socks. Negative 30 times 2 is negative 60, yes. So now we multiply. Negative 30 times 2 is?
Negative 60.
Yes, negative 60. X squared, match your socks. Negative 30 times 1?
Negative 30.
Negative 30, x, match your socks. And subtract. First terms die. Like baby Grinch when you tell Santa to go bye-bye. You know what I'm talking about? Jim Carrey? Grinch? He's like, Santa, bye-bye.
No,
You all
said
know what I'm
mine
talking
ain't
about.
Christmas.
Hey, be extra careful. What is negative 40 minus negative 30?
50. Wait, 70.
Negative 40 minus negative 30. Negative 10.
7.
One more to drop low. Bring down your minus 5. Here we go. What do I do to my 2 to turn it into a negative 10?
Negative, 2. Negative 5.
Negative 5 is correct. Would you like a prize or a cash prize?
Cash.
I'll have cash, sorry. You can have a pencil. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Guess what our remainder is? It's 0. We already knew it was going to be 0 because we read the spoilers on Reddit before we saw the movie. 0. If you don't get a remainder of 0, you did it wrong or I did it wrong. So right now, we currently have the start to our answer. We know our first factor is 2x plus 1. We also know we're left with this top. 12x to the third plus 2x squared minus 30x plus 5. So this is what we're looking at so far. That's what we got so far. We have basically just taken out one of our factors. That's all we've done. Oh, yes, thank you. -5. That would not have been good. Okay, so now I'm going to look at what is left over, this big long guy right here. How many terms does this have? 4, which means I definitely shouldn't be using the x method. X method will not work. It has 4 terms, but I can try what? Grouping. So I'm going to rewrite this underneath just so it doesn't get too messy. So I have 12x to the third plus 2x squared minus 30x minus 5. And it's time to do my grouping. So we group together our first 2 terms and my second 2 terms, and I'm going to make sure I keep that minus on the inside. Now remember, we're taking out greatest common factors and trying to make what's left over exactly the same. If I can't get them exactly the same, then I can't factor this anymore as it is. So let's write down our list of factors for 12. What are the ways to make
2?
Yeah, 1, 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. How many x's do I have?
Okay.
3. 2, there's only one way to make 2. It's
prime number.
It is the only even. Best number there is.
Well, 0 is also
0 is neither odd nor even. Okay, so what number can I take out of both? 2. That's the greatest common integer. And how many x's can I take out? 2 x's. So my GCF is 2x to the second. And where do we put that? We put it out front. What's left over?
6 to the... Oh, x.
Yeah, 6x. What's left when I divide 2x squared by 2x squared? What's the only thing not circled? 1. 1. Plus 1. Okay. Getting there. Negative 30. Or just 30. What do I do? 1 and 30. 2 and 15. 3 and 10. And
5 and 6.
Yep. Only way to make 5 is
Primes.
Yep, 1 and 5. 30 only has 1 x. What's my greatest common factor?
5.
5. But remember, this is one where we have to be really careful.
Good morning, Academy Shift. Today is Monday, November 27th, and these are your morning announcements.
Yeah.
Track and field meeting.
Hey, watch. I know announcements are going, but we'll revisit. I'm not going to divide out a positive 5. I need to take out a negative 5, so that I'm left with the exact same. So minus 5 out front. We're going to be left with 6x plus 5. Do these match? Yes, they do. Oh, it's because I was supposed to write a 1. Okay, so our final answer here would be
Parentheses 2x squared
Yeah.
minus 5.
Yep, and 6x plus 1. And what factor did we divide out in the beginning? So this is finally factored, and we are done. I get this all to fit. Fish.
These have been your announcements with Polly and Celia. Have a great day.
There you go. Factored. Done.